This is Ask an Expat with Marcus and Matt from an Expat's Russia, where we answer your questions about what it's like to live, work, and travel in Russia.
Hi everyone, welcome to this episode. Today we're going to talk about why living in Moscow is great for travel. Marcus, when I lived in Moscow, I did lots of traveling around Russia and around, the surrounding countries. I even, took long trips outside of Russia to Asia, and I always found that traveling from Moscow was incredibly easy and convenient. There were direct flights almost anywhere in the world. Also, you have trains and cars. I've only taken one train, I think, outside of Russia, but one thing that always struck me was just how convenient living in Moscow is if you love to travel. Did you have the same?
Right. I mean, as an American, you don't really. I think I remember one time when I used the train. I took the Amtrak down the coast from Portland to Seattle. That's about it. And when you get to Russia, trains are everyday thing. Like you can take the fast train, between Moscow and St. Petersburg and Kazan and other nearby cities, and you can take the night train. But once we had a car in Moscow, we loved to travel by car to nearby cities and countries. And also Moscow has 4 airports. I mean, 3 are very big and
international. Yeah.
So the choice of travel is quite big. Number of destinations that you can go to.
Well, one of the things I was thinking recently was if you look at just direct flights from Moscow, the options are seemingly endless. If you think about one connection, I mean, is there really any place on the planet you can't get? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, right? But there are just so many flights. And I think about, like right now, I currently live just outside of Houston, Texas. Even just to get to Moscow, I have to take a layover.
Oh, really? Well, they have.
Yeah. They used to have a Moscow-Houston flight, but it's done now.
Yeah, before COVID, I do remember a Moscow-Houston flight and an LA-Moscow flight, New York and Miami.
Now it's just New York.
Now it's just New York, yeah. But so, what are the destinations that you traveled to while you were living in Moscow?
Sure. So I think anybody who's been to Russia probably heard about the Caucasus area. Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan. I went to Georgia and Armenia for about a month when I first got to Russia, and it was absolutely fantastic. And the people are incredibly friendly. Food is amazing, and both countries are really kind of interesting and up-and-coming countries that a lot of people don't think about going to visit. So I usually put those at the top of my recommendation list if someone asks me, where else should I go?
So go into details about how long, what the flight time is and how long it would take you to travel to those places.
Yeah, I think the flight from Moscow to Tbilisi, Georgia is like 2.5, maybe 3 hours. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but it's very quick, right? So you can easily take a weekend and go down to Georgia. And it's incredibly cheap. Round trip, I think the last time my wife and I went, it was like $130.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, international flight. It was very, very cheap.
Right. And did you fly out of Sheremetyevo or what? Where did you fly out of usually?
I think it was Domodedovo, which is a bit inconvenient because it's so much further from the center. Sheremetyevo is the easiest airport to access in Moscow. Vnukovo isn't bad.
I want to point out, when you're living in Moscow, I mean, you have 3 international airports to basically choose from, depending on. I liked flying out of Vnukovo because we lived near in the southwest, but Sheremetyevo wasn't bad. We had to go across the city, but I never wanted to fly out of Domodedovo because it was so far. So but you have so many flights that you can choose from.
Right. Well, interesting. Actually, Sheremetyevo was ranked one of the best airports in the entire world relatively recently. So it's actually a very good airport. Domodedovo, exactly. It's too far. Actually, if you look at a map, you think, it doesn't look that much further from Sheremetyevo. But when you get into the taxi and you're riding or taking the metro and then taking the bus from the metro, it's a long way out there. One nice thing that they've done in Moscow.
Let's put it into perspective. From the city center, Sheremetyevo would probably take, 45 minutes?
35,
maybe
35, 40.
By taxi, and then Vnukovo is a bit less. Domodedovo maybe an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes, something like that. And if you're in traffic,
Right.
obviously that could be even
Exponentially be
worse.
higher.
But also you can get the
Aero
what is it?
Express
The
train is what
Aero
I was going to bring
Express.
up.
Right.
Yeah. So those, I think it's about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on which airport you're going to. But there's a direct express train from one of the central. There's actually lots of train stations in Moscow too. We probably should mention that. I think there's like 9, and 6 or 7 of them have international trains. So it's quite crazy and hectic if you're going to the train station in Moscow. But anyway, these Aero Express trains, they go from major train stations in the center to directly to the airport. I don't want to say all of them go directly into the terminal, but I think most of them do. So it's not like you get to some, place away
within
from
walking
the airport and you have
distance.
exactly. Whereas before the Aero Express, they had these elektrichki, which are just like suburban trains that would take you quite close to the airport, but then you either had a very long walk, a short taxi ride, or a short bus ride then to get to the actual terminal. So it's
Right.
quite convenient. They have Wi-Fi and they're brand new trains.
You mentioned the train stations out of Moscow. I thought it was kind of, I mean, it makes sense now, but so you have the Leningradsky train station, which it means like the direction. So the train stations are named after the direction that you're going to be headed. So Yaroslavsky, you would be heading in the direction of Yaroslavl. Leningradsky was, St. Petersburg. So if you're going to St. Petersburg, you go out of Leningradsky, and then Kievsky, you're going direction Kiev. So I thought that was kind of interesting that you would, go to different train stations.
Going in direction of Belarus.
Right.
Rishsky Vokzal, which is going towards Riga.
Right. So you mentioned going to Armenia, Georgia, a short flight. I went the opposite direction. For most of our trips, I still want to go to Armenia and Georgia, but we would go to. So we would either. My wife's from St. Petersburg, so we'd drive to St. Petersburg by car, or we'd take the Nevsky Express train. You'd be there in 4 hours, or the Sapsan is also similar, 3 hours and 50 minutes or so, and then or you can take the night train to any neighboring cities, any bigger cities. When we would go abroad, we would go to Finland, Germany, or Turkey. And I mean, normally we'd drive to Finland. Just the border crossing experience is much smoother than compared to Latvia, or Estonia is okay too. But I've heard driving to Ukraine isn't, you get stuck at the border for several hours. So
especially now, unfortunately.
Yeah, you kind of have to pick and choose whether you're going to go by train, plane, or car, but you have all those options, right? So depending on how much luggage you're going to be taking, or how many people, if you can fill a car, then maybe it's more economical to go by car. We flew to Germany and we flew to Turkey, obviously, 3.5 hours and you're there. And the price of the tickets, like there are several airlines that fly, within Western Europe. So again, you have a lot of options there. Yeah, that's.
I mean, all the major European airlines fly into Moscow, into one of the major airports. All of them. I can't think of any that don't fly.
Recently, in the last, 5 years, I read before that why there were no low-cost airlines in Russia was because all these, some of the foreign companies wanted to enter the Russian market with their low-cost airlines, and Russia just kind of didn't want that to happen. But they ended up, now there are few foreign companies that fly into Moscow, and also Pobeda is another one.
A Russian low-cost, yeah.
Right, and when you start comparing the prices, I think even with the low-cost airlines, you'll notice that the prices has dropped among the other airlines as well, like S7 in general. I mean, I'm not, obviously it depends on a lot of factors, but in general, it seemed like there were so many options that it was hard not to, it's not like, oh, I'm not going to go to that destination because I can't find something, right?
Right. Right. Like I said, you can literally get anywhere in Europe with a connection. I mean, I'm talking even like the smallest small cities.
Right.
You can get to any major city with direct flights from Moscow easily. That's not hard. But even getting to smaller cities, it's not difficult. What always surprised me really quick was how cheap the tickets always were. I don't know if it was a factor of the devalued ruble or what, but it was always very, very cheap to fly from Russia to anywhere in Europe. I mean, I think it would have been, unless you're talking about a really tiny airport somewhere. I mean, you can't find a ticket that costs more than $350. I couldn't, at least.
Right. Well, a lot of Russians, they prefer to fly to Europe for vacation because, well, for many reasons, but one of the reasons is that if they were to fly domestically to the Far East, for example, the prices for those tickets are the same. And
right.
So,
or more.
Or more, yeah, or more. So, the demand is higher, obviously. So it makes more sense to go to Europe for a lot of people. One thing that I wanted to touch on as well is the opportunity to go internationally with by train, which is kind of an experience in its on its own that I would recommend anybody do. I did I took the Lev Tolstoy train from Moscow to Helsinki several times. I enjoyed that.
I do, real quick, before you get into this, that is not representative of most of the other international lines, just to let our viewers know. The line that goes from Moscow to Kiev, for example, it's actually the ultimate destination is Chisinau, Moldova. Believe me.
For all the trains,
there's nothing nice about that train. Yes, that's the only train that runs. It's like the Moscow-Odessa Express or something. It's ridiculous.
You can't get
not a fun
I'm sure
experience.
you can get a higher quality.
No, you can't.
I only went to Kiev once on the Platzkart, and yeah, it was okay. Good experience, I guess, but I wouldn't do it again.
But I just want to make it clear that the train to Finland is kind of exceptional.
Yeah, right. It depends on the route
because
that you take.
All of
for
those
example,
trains are good.
So whenever we went to Finland, we've done it, one of three ways. Either I've taken the Lev Tolstoy, which is the 14-hour train leaving Moscow, I think about 6 or 8 p.m. and then getting there in the morning. I can't remember. In the morning, like 12. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So, and it's nice because you're not in a rush. You don't get up early. You leave, Moscow in the evening. You cross the border. You don't have to get out of if you're driving, over the border. You have to go through immigration and show your passport and all that stuff, passport control. But in the train, they do it all. They just, the border officers come by, check your documents, and you just kind of relax. I've done that several times. I've done the fast train to St. Petersburg, and then the Allegra. For example, you can take the Sapsan to St. Petersburg, be there in 4 hours, and then you can take the Allegra to Helsinki. I think that's another 2.5 hours, 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't think it's that long. I think it's about 3 hours or so. But yeah. All in all, depending on your schedule, you can play with your schedule, and then we would drive. But that was like 7-8 hours to St. Petersburg, then another 5 to Helsinki, and at the border you never know how long you're going to be. So, but right. one route that I would really like to take, still I haven't taken it, is the Moscow to Berlin train, just for the experience. Yeah. That would be fun.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope you all understood that the travel opportunities, if you're living in Moscow, are absolutely fantastic. Neither of us have been to Central Asia, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. Amazing countries from all of my friends who've been there. So if you're looking for a place to live where you can also travel, definitely consider Moscow. The opportunities are definitely there. And we'll
See you
see
in
you
the
in
next
another
video.
video.